Welcome, one and all, to tonight's episode of Pop Talk here on the Pacific414 YouTube channel. I am your host, Mike, and in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the box office preview for the new James Bond film, No Time to Die. I'm going to be asking you all a question about No Time to Die. I'm also going to be talking about William Shatner going up to space via Amazon mogul Jeff Bezos' rocket this coming Tuesday, and also the announcement that Disney is going to create an animated version of the original Star Wars films. Hope you're all doing well tonight. Sorry about the delay. You can thank Streamlabs for that. But anyways, tonight, I just want it to be casual, fun, and relaxing, where we're talking about the latest news in pop culture as to whether or not, some of us are going to go see some of the latest movies that are coming out, and if some of us are just going to go ahead and skip the movies. But let's go ahead and jump into No Time to Die here. And I've got this article up by Hollywood Reporter, and it is by Pamela McClintock. I hope I'm saying that right. And it goes on to say, box office preview, Daniel Craig's James Bond swan song, No Time to Die finally hits theaters. It goes on to say the movie opens everywhere Friday in the US and Canada after being delayed more than 18 months because of the pandemic. And I know this movie's already been released overseas. I know there are already reviews for it up on various websites, various YouTube channels. I have chosen to skip all those reviews because I don't know for myself if I'm going to see the movie or not. I've seen Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace. I saw Spectre, and I just don't know if I'm gonna go see Daniel Craig's fifth outing as James Bond. I just don't know yet. Even with all the reports of it being woke, it not being woke, I don't know. I just don't know. And the other film I forgot to mention was Skyfall. But again, I don't know if I'm going to see it. If you're going to see it, well, then leave a comment down in the comment section below and let me know how you like the film. If you didn't like the film, if you're not going to see it, if you want to give a reason why, you can. You don't have to. I know for myself, I'm just indecisive as to whether or not I want to go see a film that 18 months ago I did want to go see. But at this point, I don't know if my desire to go see the movie is actually still there. So, leave a comment whether you're going to see the movie, whether you have seen the movie, whether you're going to skip the movie, or whether you're going to wait for it to come out on digital or home video. So this article goes on to say the time has come for James Bond to assist in rescuing the U.S. box office. No Time to Die will finally unfurl in more than 4,400 cinemas across the U.S. and Canada on Friday after being delayed over 18 months because of the pandemic. Accurate predictions are almost impossible considering moviegoing is still impacted by COVID-19. Tracking suggests that MGM and Eon's tentpole will clear at least $60 million in its domestic launch. More bullish analysts believe the number could be closer to $70 million, if not higher, considering that Sony's Venom: Let There Be Carnage came in $25 million to $30 million ahead of expectations last weekend when opening to a pandemic era best $90 million. And Venom: Let There Be Carnage, that's another movie I don't know if I'm going to go see it or not. There are a lot of movies that I myself thought I would wanted to go see at one point, but haven't for various reasons. But I'll make that determination, and if I do end up going to see any of the movies, whether it be No Time to Die, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, you know, Dune. Although I want to see Dune, to be honest, I do want to see Dune. I will post a reaction review here on the channel for Pacific414 movie review. It won't include any clips, but I'll have a review up. So this article goes on to say there are major contrasts between the two films. The Bond franchise been buoyed by older adults, a demo that has been far more reluctant to return to theaters because of COVID-19. Only 9% of the Venom 2's opening weekend audience was 45 and older, compared to 33% for the last Bond film, Spectre. Goes on to say, additionally, No Time to Die runs a hefty 2 hours and 43 minutes, reducing show times and making it the longest entry in the Pantheon. Again, 2 hours and 43 minutes. Well, if I'm going to sit there for 2 hours and 43 minutes, this better be the best Bond film I've ever seen. Because I just have this feeling that I'm going to go in, I'm going to watch the movie, and that 2 hour and 43-minute runtime is going to be what does it in for me. So I really don't know. I'm getting to the point where watching a movie for 3 hours is becoming more of a chore than anything else. So I don't know if I can do it. I just being honest with you folks, I don't know that I personally can do it. Maybe you can. Great. Again, like I said previously, if you end up going to see this movie, then let me know what you thought of it. Maybe hearing, someone else's reaction to it, multiple people's reaction to it, positive, negative, that'll help me make my decision as to whether or not I'm going to go see it. Right now, I'd say no. Honestly, I'd say no. I'll wait. Okay. Goes on to say that, No Time to Die could easily outperform tracking. Last week, it started off overseas with a stellar 121 million from its first 54 international markets. That doesn't include China, where it rolls out October 29th, so the end of the month. The nostalgia factor is running high, considering the 25th Bond installment marks Daniel Craig's fifth and final turn as a storied British spy. And as box office shows signs of recovery, No Time to Die is arguably the first all-audience tentpole that is not a superhero movie to hit the big screen since COVID-19 forced theaters to shut down in late March of last year. Directed by Kerry Fukunaga, the event pick is being distributed domestically by United Artists, releasing and internationally by Universal. The cast also includes Léa Seydoux, Ben Whishaw, Naomi Harris, Ralph Fiennes, and Christopher Waltz, along with franchise newcomers Rami Malek and Ana de Armas and Lashana Lynch. In North America, No Time to Die will be playing in 4,407 theaters as of Friday, the widest footprint of any Bond pick, following Thursday previews in select theaters and special Wednesday night screenings in some IMAX locations. If No Time to Die opens to much more than 70 million, it could supplement 2015 Spectre, which earned $70.4 million, and become the second top opener of the franchise, not adjusted for inflation. To become the number one, it would need to best 2012's Skyfall, the most successful 007 film of all time, which started off with 88.4 million domestically. Bond movies aren't known for huge openings. After Skyfall and Spectre, the top 5 list includes 2006 Quantum of Solace, 2002's Die Another Day, 2008's Casino Royale, All-Star Craig, except for Die Another Day, which headlined Pierce Bronson. In early March 2020, No Time to Die became the first big-budget Hollywood temple to see its theatrical release delayed due to the pandemic. It was set to launch in cinemas in April of that year. It was subsequently delayed 2 more times. So, again, what do you think? Are you all going to go see No Time to Die, either tonight or starting tomorrow and heading into the weekend? Are you going to go see it, or are you going to wait and rent it later on? I'd be curious to know what you're all thinking when it comes to this film. Is it worth seeing in your point of view? Is it not worth seeing in your point of view? It's just one of those films where, again, 18 months ago, I did want to go see it. When it had its originally scheduled April release, I wanted to go see it. And now, I'm not so sure that I actually want to go see it. It's the same thing for me when it came to Black Widow. At one point, when it was supposed to come out last March, I wanted to go see the movie. But after, everything got delayed, my interest, well, that got delayed as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what this movie does and what the actual reactions to this movie are. Yeah, I'll probably end up watching a few reviews here on YouTube just to get, everybody's perspective, and try to get different perspectives from people who actually like the film, people who are indifferent to the film, and people who, for whatever reason they give, if any, don't like the film at all. It's completely up to the individual as to whether or not you like a film or not. Everything's subjective. You could tell me about a book that you're absolutely in love with. You love the story, you love the characters. I could read that same book and not be as interested in that book and the characters as you are. Not saying it would be a bad book, not saying it would be a bad movie or even a bad TV show. Everybody has their own opinion. So we have that going for us. And one thing I want everybody to understand about me is that I can look at something and sometimes I'm just not seeing it the same way everyone else is. Sometimes when somebody is raving about a TV show, raving about a movie, and I end up watching it, yeah, I don't see their same enthusiasm for it. It could be anything about that movie or TV show that I don't like. Maybe it's the characters. Maybe I don't particularly care for the story. But that's just one of those things. Like I said, it's subjective. Everything is subjective. Everybody has their own opinions. You all know, if you've been to this channel before, I talk about baseball during the baseball season. And, my opinion on what certain teams need to do may not be the same as you. Hell, Spock, good to see you here, brother. Good to see you. Glad you could stop by, brother. Hope you're doing well tonight. But, like I was saying, covering baseball, I cover the Cubs, and there are days where I wonder what the team's doing. I'm trying to get this to load here, and everything is going wonky, and I just need to check one more thing. I am not liking this. Not a problem, good sir. Not a problem. Always glad to see you here. And yes, I shouldn't have any issue joining your Star Trek Online stream tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, we can get a good team going with us and, save the galaxy. Bear with me one moment. I'm trying to get a page to load in. It's refusing to load. So give me 1 second here, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. Try this again. All right. Let's see if it loads up this time, and then we'll move on to our next article of discussion. And I'm only planning on going till at least 10 o'clock tonight, so this won't be a terribly long episode of Pop Talk, but I do appreciate anybody who ends up stopping by. And wow, everything's it's just rounded to a halt. What in the world is going on? Okay, come on. There we go. Now it's loading up. Yeesh. Technology, folks. It's great when it works, but when it doesn't work, it's the pits. All right. So here we go with our next article here. And as you can see, this is coming out of Bounding into Comics, and they are talking about a rumor. And that rumor is that Lucasfilm is going to reimagine the original Star Wars films as animated movies. I'm going to let you all know right now. A red light flashes whenever I hear the word reimagined. You've got a story in the original trilogy with Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And those are great stories. They don't need to be tampered with. They don't need to be reimagined. Leave them as is. If you want to make them into animated form, fine, but stick to the original story as told by George Lucas. Stick to his vision, and that's his creation. I don't care that he sold it to Disney and that they own that IP now. That is still George Lucas's creation. You should still honor it. That's the same as I feel about Star Trek. You should honor Gene Roddenberry's vision. His vision of an optimistic, hopeful future where we're all able to put our differences aside, not even see the differences in one another, and get along instead of having constant bickering and fighting. No, Star Trek is supposed to be an escape from our everyday world. Every day is going on. Same with Star Wars. But this article comes out of Bounding into Comics. And again, it's a rumor. And this is by John F. Trent. It says a new rumor claims that Disney and Lucasfilm are planning to reimagine the original Star Wars trilogy as animated films. This rumor comes from Nick Santos at that hashtag show, who claims they are already working on outlines for all three films. You don't need to work on an outline. You don't need to work on a freaking outline. The story's already there. The story's already been told in Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. You don't have to change a darn thing. You don't have to change anything about the story. Stick with the original story as it was told and let a new generation see it in animated form. Let us who grew up with it see it in its original film form. Oh, and by the way, Disney, you want to know how you can really make a buck? Really make a quick buck? Release the original Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi without any of the special editions items added to it. Release it as it originally was released in the theaters. Release it as it was in 77, 80, and 83. That would get people to buy the original trilogy. I would buy that set. I'm telling you right now, I would buy that set. I'd love to see the movies as I originally saw them before unnecessary add-ons were put into the movies. Someone else might feel differently. You might feel differently and say, but Mike, I like the special editions. And that's fine. That's fine. You can like the special editions. But as far as reimagining the story, retelling the story, you don't need to retell the freaking story. And if you're going to tell a Star Wars story, come up with a new Star Wars story. Come up with something new. But, you know, that's an issue I've noticed for over the past several years, that nobody in Hollywood can come up with a new story. And that's all I want to see. I want to see new stories. I want to see new stories with characters I can actually care about, characters I like, characters I dislike. Just tell me a good story with good characters and give me a reason to actually fall in love with that story, get into that story. And if you're going to hint at something of the character's background, let us know what it is. You don't have to let us know everything. Just drop in little hints in there. Don't put in any little mystery boxes. You know, I'm going to mention them one more time. It goes back to baseball, it goes back to the Cubs. You know, teams that end up trading away players that are actually working out well for a ball club, and then that person gets traded away, and the whole chemistry is ruined. The whole recipe is ruined. Come on, Hollywood. Think of something new. Anyways, it goes on to say Santos also asserts that Lucasfilm will reimagine the original trilogy films as animated films based off Ralph McQuarrie's original concept art for the films. Well, yeah, you could base it off the original concept art, but still stick to the basic story. The story that has laid the foundation for Star Wars in general. Okay, it goes on to say, not only does he claim the films will be reimagined in McQuarrie's style, but he also asserts the films will not be direct animated adaptations, but instead will be based off the original second draft of Star Wars. Santos writes, currently, writers are writing an outline for all three films that will be familiar to longtime fans, but we'll see some deviations to the story, as the basis of these three films is the original second draft of what eventually became Star Wars: A New Hope, or for some of us of a certain age, Star Wars. The first animated adaptation will specifically be based off the draft, and Santos says the other two films will blend elements of the second draft while also keeping familiar regards to what happens in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The draft was titled Adventures of the Star Killer Episode 1, The Star Wars. And yes, I'm fully aware that Luke Skywalker and one of George Lucas's drafts was called Luke Starkiller. And of course, then that name Starkiller was used in the movies for The Force Awakens. So let's see. It goes on to say that it had a number of differences from what ended up becoming the original Star Wars film. First off, the world of Star Wars looked a little different. The Empire did not have the iron grip on the galaxy that they are shown to have in the original Star Wars. Rather, it is already in decline and faced a significant loss to the Rebel Alliance and the mighty Jedi warrior known as the Star Killer. The opening scroll in the draft states, "The Republic Galactica is dead. Ruthless trader barons driven by greed and lust for power have replaced enlightenment with oppression and rule by the people with the First Galactic Empire." It continues until the tragic Holy Rebellion of 06. The respected Jedi Bendu of Ashla were the most powerful warriors in the universe. And in case anyone is unfamiliar with the Bendu, they were actually brought up in an episode of Rebels, and it touched up on it a little bit in Rebels, but I'd have to actually go back and rewatch the episodes that the Bendu was actually in it. So goes on to say, for 100,000 years, generations of Jedi Bendu Knights learned the ways of the mysterious force of others and acted as guardians of peace and justice in the Republic. Now these legendary warriors are all but extinct. One by one, they have been hunted down and destroyed by a ferocious rival sect of mercenary warriors, the Black Knights of the Sith. It's a period of civil war. The Empire is crumbling into lawless barbarism throughout the millions worlds of the galaxy, from the celestial equator to the farthest reaches of the Great Rift. 70 small solar systems have united in common war against the tyranny of the Empire. The script reads, the scroll concludes, under the command of the mighty Jedi warrior known as the Star Killer, the Rebel Alliance has won a crushing victory over the deadly Imperial Starfleet. The Empire knows that one more such defeat will bring 1,000 more solar systems into the rebellion, and the Imperial control of the Outlands could be lost forever. Not only is the world slightly different, but the opening scene has some significant changes as well. Instead of Darth Vader tracking down and capturing Princess Leia, a rebel ship finds itself in a dogfight with 4 Imperial Star Destroyers. The ship is captained by Deck Starkiller, and he and his crew managed to destroy one of the Star Destroyers. However, another one of the Star Destroyers lands a devastating blow on the rebel ship, destroying its main solar fin. With the ship damaged, the Imperials, led by a Sith Knight, plan to board the rebel vessel. Okay, before it skips on me again. The rebels provide a much tougher fight as well, using seeker bombs to counter the Imperials' massive numbers advantage. Deke even wades into battle using his laser sword to devastate the Imperials. There is even a confrontation between Deke and Darth Vader. Of note, the script also shows that the Sith Knights are able to exert emotional manipulation of the battlefield through the dark side of the Force, which is called Bogan in the script. Deke tells one of his soldiers, "You're feeling the Bogan's despair. Be strong, Tyree. Drive it from your thoughts." The script also sees Luke and Leia as the son and daughter of Owen and Beru Lars. They also have 2 twin brothers named Biggs and Windy. Their last name is also Starkiller instead of Skywalker. There are also changes to the Tusken Raiders. Instead of being called Sand People, they are actually Imperial scout troops sent to the planet. Okay, I'm gonna give this one a second. Upatau, to track down C-3PO and R2-D2 by Darth Vader. One of the biggest changes is, in fact, that the draft does not include Obi-Wan Kenobi whatsoever. So it wouldn't be simply a retelling of the original story in the animated form, something Disney is known to do in the opposite direction as they adapt their classic animated films into live action films. If it wasn't 2021, this might actually be something to be interested in, but given it's 2021 and Disney's abysmal track record with anything Star Wars, there's absolutely no interest in seeing this being made, as it more than likely would butcher the script with identity politics. And again, what I want in any kind of story, whether it's Star Wars or not Star Wars, is a good story. A good story, a compelling story with great characters, and a reason to follow those characters and believe in those characters. Give me 1 second. But it doesn't really need to happen. There doesn't need to be a remake, retelling of Star Wars, especially with a previous script that was actually rejected, actually changed. There's no need for it. Of course, that's my opinion. You can have a completely different opinion, and as I've said before, that's fine. Have a different opinion. We don't all have to have the same opinion. If you want to see this actually come to fruition, then have it come to fruition at some point. But the only ones that can actually do that are Disney themselves, Bob Chapek and the powers to be at Disney and Lucasfilm. Whether or not it's going to happen, I don't know. I have no interest in seeing it. Now, that, of course, could change. I could find out that it's not as bad as, I might think it is. But I don't need a reimagining, retelling, a use of a second draft of the script to tell a story that, honestly, the final draft of what we got in the original Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, it's perfect. In my opinion, it's perfect. No changes are needed. Now, let's go ahead and deviate from Star Wars a little bit before I actually end up going back to it, because there is something else I want to talk about, but I'll say that for later. And that's the fact that NBC announced last week that they are reviving the original Law and Order. That's right. The original Law and Order is now being revived. So after being canceled a few years ago, NBC's decided, hey, let's do what everyone else does. Revive yet another show. I know they've done that with a few other shows, but oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. So this says that why NBC's Law and Order revival isn't a Peacock original. As Warner Media and Disney make some of their biggest originals exclusive to their respective streaming services, NBC Universal carves out a different strategy. And this is coming out of the Hollywood Reporter. It's written by Leslie Goldberg. It says, more than a decade after its surprising cancellation, NBC has revived Dick Wolf's mothership series, Law and Order, for what the network is calling its 21st season. The revival, which has been in works through various starts and stops since 2015, gives Wolf 9 shows across 3 different franchises on 2 broadcast networks, and most importantly, fulfills a dream come true for the prolific producer. But what may be the most surprising about September 28th announcement, and if I can only speak, that would help too, which gives Wolf a chance to boast the two longest running primetime dramas in TV history, the other being Law and Order SVU, is the revival is for NBC and not its fledgling streaming counterpart, Peacock. The streamer launched nationally in summer 2020, and by July's Olympics, which was to have been the cornerstone of its debut, had reached 54 million signups. Of those, around 20 million are active accounts, with half as many of those signed up for its premium tier. Following a year that saw Comcast revivals restructure their executive ranks to prioritize streaming, Disney and Warner Media have put such prize titles, including Marvel TV originals and revivals of Gossip Girl and Sex and the City, on Disney Plus and HBO Max, respectively, in a bid to use their biggest IP to draw subscribers to their upstart platforms. So, why isn't the new Law and Order on Peacock? Sources say executives at NBC Universal, which unlike Disney or Warner Media, is structured with a content group overseeing Peacock as well as linear networks NBC, USA, Bravo, Sci-Fi, E, among others, are focused instead on securing the biggest audience for L&O rather than airing it exclusively on Peacock. The Law & Order brand reaches different audiences across all of our platforms, and our goal is to bring the largest number of viewers possible to the show, said Lisa Katz, president of entertainment scripted content at NBC Universal TV and Streaming. This strategy enables us to leverage the broad reach of the network while also making the show incredibly accessible to all of its fans on Peacock. It isn't a case of either or, but rather yes and. As part of the deal for L&O's return, new episodes of the series will be available the next day on Peacock as well as on Hulu as part of a remaining clause that grants the Disney-backed platform in-season stacking rights. Whether the new L&O will wind up as an exclusive to Peacock after the season ends will be determined based on how the show performs. Should it wind up exclusive to Peacock, it would join select episodes of the 20-season original L&O that the streamer acquired last year as part of a 6-show, 9-figure deal with Wolf. The L&O decision is but one of many facing execs Susan Rovner and Francis Berwick, who work with Matt Strauss on efforts to deliver the biggest audience for... Okay, it jumped on me. I'm tired of it jumping on me. Okay, to deliver the biggest audience for content while growing all platforms across NBCU's entertainment portfolio. Other recent movies include pulling back the Kate McKinnon-led Joe Exotic series, which was poised to launch simultaneously across NBC, USA Network, and Peacock, but will now be exclusive to the streamer, a decision based on what sources say was graphic content featured in the Tiger King scripted drama. Sums up one agent of NBCU's choice to prioritize broadcast. Dick wanted it on NBC because there's still 15 million people a week watching that show. All right, so we're getting the return of the original Law and Order. Now, I couldn't find an article that would at least give some information as far as which cast members might or might not be returning to Law and Order. But I don't know. I don't know. There's only so much Law and Order I can take, and I'll be honest, I haven't watched the past two seasons of SVU, and I think it's because the show's been on so long that even though parts of it are still good, it's just not enough to maintain my interest anymore. You might still be interested in Law and Order. You might, enjoy SVU as it's going right now. You might even be excited about the fact that we're getting a revival of the original Law and Order, and that's fine. But I'm always going to give you my take on it, how my thought process is working on it, and I don't know that I'm all that interested in a revival of Law and Order. I don't think I'm interested in any revival of any show at this point. And of course, as I keep saying, that's just my point of view. You can have a different point of view. That's fine. I'm going to keep saying that. I'm going to keep saying that until people get tired of hearing me say it. But in my point of view, it comes to a time where you need to start coming up with something new and original. Stop going back to the past and trying to revive the past when it comes to TV shows. Start coming up with new ideas, exciting new ideas, and give us something that we're actually going to enjoy. Like I was saying with the Star Wars animated series, that they want to retell the original Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Give us something we're going to like. Give us something we're going to like, with stories we're going to like, with characters we're going to like. I know I keep repeating myself, and I just feel I need to. So another thing I did want to talk about that's Hollywood related, let me pull it up here, is, let's see. Okay, no. That wasn't it. This was it right here. Copying the link, pasting the link, and I'll have it up on screen here in just a few moments. And just waiting for it to load. It is now loaded, and now I am going to go ahead and talk about the IATSR Union authorizes nationwide strike amidst dispute with Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. And these are the people like you and me who work their butts off, and they don't get paid the millions of dollars that these Hollywood actors get paid. So it's from Bounding Into Comics, another article by John F. Trent. And it says the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, Moving Picture Technicians, Artists, and Allied Crafts of the United States, its territories, and Canada authorized a nationwide strike amidst a dispute with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. It goes on to say that IATSE is made up of more than 360 local unions throughout the United States and Canada. The local unions are broken up into 13 different geographical regions in the US and Canada. It says on Twitter, the union announced that members in TV and film production voted to authorize the first nationwide industry strike in our 128-year history. It says they added 98.68% voted yes, and voter turnout among eligible members was nearly 90%. Okay, it goes on to say the motion picture and television production department of IATSR notes their members build the sets, design the clothing, frame the image, record the dialogue, edit the scenes, animate the characters, and yes, even create weather to help bring the story to life. According to a press release from the union, more than 60,000 members overwhelmingly voted to grant the international president, Matthew Loeb, authority to call a strike. The members have spoken loud and clear, said Loeb. The vote is about the quality of life as well as the health and safety of those who work in the film and television industry. Our people have basic human needs like time for meal breaks, adequate sleep, and a weekend for those at the bottom of the pay scale. They deserve nothing less than a living wage. And that's the thing. Like I said, these people are like you and I. They work job to job, paycheck to paycheck. They don't get paid the millions of dollars like these actors get paid to pretend. So, for these people to go on strike, more power to them. More power to them. Goes on to say that Loeb added, I hope that the studios will see and understand the resolve of our members. The ball is in their court. If they want to avoid a strike, they will return to the bargaining table and make us a reasonable offer. It says, according to the Los Angeles Times, the dispute between the union and the American Motion Pictures and Television Producers is over pay, health, and pension plans, improved rest periods and meal breaks, and a larger cut of the profits from streaming platforms. So again, they're trying to provide for themselves, for their families, and who can blame them? Who can blame them? Loeb told the LA Times, we really have 4 points that are hanging out there, and a few other issues that I think will be dealt with. But you're talking about meals and breaks during the day, rest periods between shifts, and on the weekends, a living wage for the lowest paid people, and some appropriate adjustments to new media streaming based on its maturity. He added, the rest periods and quality of life issues, including the meals and the breaks, are clearly gaining a lot of momentum, but I would not diminish the importance of the other issues as I mentioned. They are all priorities. It says, according to Deadline, the American Motion Picture and Television Producers released saying they remain committed to reaching an agreement that will keep the industry working. We deeply value our crew members and are committed to working with them to avoid shutting down the industry at such a pivotal time, particularly since the industry is still recovering from the economic fallout from COVID-19 pandemic. The statement concluded, a deal can be made at the bargaining table, but it will require both parties working together in good faith with a willingness to compromise and to explore new solutions to resolve open issues. Before the vote authorizing the strike, Loeb was asked by the LA Times on the likelihood of a strike actually happening. He responded that depends largely on the employees and what they're prepared to do to avoid it. They've made it about power, not reason. So my read is that if they see that the strike authorization is passed, then maybe they will return to reason and the bargaining table, but it's about power. That's the problem. He also noted, we're getting support from a lot of people that recognize there are issues. There are a lot of people supporting us that might seem like a surprise. People who are in production, people who run productions and manage them, people who are able to produce within the confines of humane work rules. I suspect that there's reasonable people in the American Motion Picture Television Producers group, and so there's hope. As for a timeline on when a strike might happen, Loeb said, we will approach the producers after the strike vote is returned and inform them of the results and see if they're ready to get back to the table, and then we'll decide about the timeline. So that's pretty much it from that article. And again, as I said, I don't blame these people for going on strike. I don't blame these people for wanting to support themselves and support their families. It's the basic human need to be able to support oneself, to provide for oneself. These people should be allowed to do that. They shouldn't be worked hours and hours on end without a break. You know, they're human beings. Treat them as such. Give them a living wage. You know, I know I've worked jobs where they work you like a dog. I've been there. And you know, it sucks when you're busting your butt and you have nothing to show for it. You have to rush through a lunch break just so you can get back and do whatever job needs to be done. It's ridiculous. And these people already work long hours. And so again, I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. Go on strike. And honestly, I hope they win. I hope they win. Okay, let's see. What else did I want to talk about tonight? Well, let's go ahead and talk about another Star Wars rumor. And I found this interesting. Whether it actually happens, I don't know. I don't have any insiders. But this is an article from InsideTheMagic.com. And it says Mandalorian Season 4 reportedly greenlit with Gina Carano returning. Interesting. Interesting if it's true, but also interesting if it's a false rumor. And that's one thing I'm keeping in mind, is that it very well could be a false rumor. So let's go ahead and read this article. It was posted on the 5th, so that was Monday. Actually, Tuesday. Sorry. And it's by Rebecca Barton. And it says, with filming for The Mandalorian Season 3 already underway and Lucasfilm executives adamant that fired actress Gina Carano will not be recast, it seems likely that the New Republic Marshal Cara Dune won't be making an appearance in the third season of showrunner Jon Favreau and executive producer Dave Filoni's hit Star Wars series. Carano was let go by Lucasfilm Ltd. And the Walt Disney Company following a series of controversial tweets throughout The Mandalorian Season 2. Her firing derailed one of the 3 planned Mandalorian spin-offs, Rangers of the New Republic, which Carano was set to star in, has been placed on indefinite hold. Ahsoka, starring Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano, and the Book of Boba Fett debuting on December 29th, 2021 with Tamira Morrison as Boba Fett and Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shand are still greenlit. Well, we know they're still greenlit because it's already been announced when Boba Fett's going to premiere. They already said in the article. Okay, it says, despite the fact that Carano's co-stars, including Mandalorian leading man Pedro Pascal, Katie Sackhoff, and Wen, supported her throughout the drama that followed her last year, it wasn't enough to save the former women's MMA and Muay. Okay, let me start over. Maybe I can form my words tonight, or maybe not. It wasn't enough to save the former women's MMA and Muay Thai fighter job in the Star Wars franchise. Now, however, the online rumor mill is swirling with reports that Carano will be returning to the Star Wars galaxy in The Mandalorian Season 4. This tracks with both the fact that Jon Favreau himself has seemingly gone to bat for the daughter of the NFL quarterback Glenn Carano, and the fact that actor Giancarlo Esposito has previously teased 4 seasons of The Mandalorian. Also, Giancarlo Esposito has also come out and said that anyone who's unvaccinated has no business being on the set. Well, for me, you can like this, you can not like this. I don't need to know if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. That's your business. It's not my business. It's not anyone else's business. That's your business. That's how I've always felt. If it, you know, makes you happy to let people know, fine. Let people know. But I don't need to know. I don't need to know. I'll take whatever safety precautions I need to take for as long as this thing's still around to protect other people and protect myself. Okay, it says fans have taken to social media to share their thoughts about Carano's potential return. Jason M. Tallman posted, at Gina Carano, I read today you may be in The Mandalorian Season 4. I hope it's true. Any truth to this? Message me. And it says, another Twitter user, James A. Frank, Lucasfilm and Disney are hot stepping around fan pressure to bring back Season 4, maybe. I am one of those voices. I mean, I liked her. I liked her as Cara Dune. She did what she had to do. She played the character. I wasn't asking for an Emmy-winning performance. She didn't have to give an Emmy-winning performance at all. She portrayed a character, and she did it quite well. Okay, it says that Smozel's feet. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I'm just going to end up butchering it again. Shared a poignant post about Cara Dune's potential return. It says, at Gina Carano, you will be missed in Mandalorian Season 3. Hope to see you back for Season 4. You simply are Cara Dune, and I cannot imagine the story without her as my fave character. And you as the great actress playing her. You are amazing. Love from Germany. And then there's others saying, and this is Woods Jedi saying, oh my God, I just heard you were going to be back in Mando Season 4, 2023. Yay, the Star Wars gods listen. And you don't screw with Cara Dune. Again, like I said, I liked her for the character. No. I'm not saying she's an Emmy-winning award-winning actress, but, who am I to say? I could see her in something somewhere down the line, and it can give her that Emmy award. Whether it's going to happen, because there are people who disagree with what she posted online, that remains to be seen. But honestly, all I'm going to say about what she posted online is she was just pointing out history. It's not hard to look up that history and to find out what happened during World War II. Any of us who studied World War II in the past know what we read, and we know what happened. We know what happened from listening to people who were there fighting for this country in World War II, who helped save people during World War II. So, take it for what you will. If you believe what happened, which honestly, there's no reason why you shouldn't. Like I said, it's there. It's there for everybody to read. But, she was just pointing out a part of history. It's an ugly part of history. And guess what? This world, it's not perfect. None of us are perfect. None of us. Although the report referenced by Note Munch is unconfirmed, it is intriguing due to the fact that leading man Pascal previously indicated that a time jump would occur at some point in the series. It is important to note that nothing about Carano's return has been confirmed by the actress herself or any representatives from the Walt Disney Company. At this time, any reports of Cara Dune coming back to Star Wars universe are purely online speculation. And there's a picture of Gina Carano at Galaxy's Edge. I don't know if it's at Disney World, Disneyland, doesn't matter. It says, one thing we know for sure, though, is that we won't have to wait long to find out what happens in the next chapter of The Mandalorian when the book of Boba Fett airs later this year. So there you have it. The rumored return of Gina Carano as Cara Dune. Will it happen? Won't it happen? I don't know. You don't know. None of us know. The only people that know are Disney, Lucasfilm, and Gina Carano. And so far, they're not saying a word. So it'll be interesting to see if this rumor, and that's all it is, it's just a rumor, turns out to be fact. I'd like to see Gina Carano back as Cara Dune. I'll be honest. She's one of those characters you're introduced to. You start to learn a little bit about the character, and you want to see more of that character so you can learn more about the character. I don't care what an actor's politics are. What I care about is the fact that they can get in front of that camera and portray whatever character they're portraying. So, again, it's a matter of trying to separate the art from the artist, which is something I can do. I know all you who are subscribed to this channel can do. I know we all can do it. And the reason why is, well, it's self-explanatory. They're all good people that are subscribed to this channel, and I appreciate it. And the reason why I say that, because you put up with me when I'm in a bad mood after a Cubs loss. Okay. So let's go ahead. And yes, I'm still going to 10 o'clock, but let's go ahead and talk about Jeff Bezos needing a true captain on board his rocket. He needs somebody who been there, somebody who can reach out to the unknown, reach out to the far reaches of the galaxy and say, second star to the right, and straight on till morning. Mr. Bezos, take us out. Warp Factor 5. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. William Shatner, Captain James Tiberius Kirk himself, will be going up into space next Tuesday with Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin. And I know I'm talking like William Shatner, but as they say, it's better for you, it's better for me, it's better for them. And yes, some people will say this is a risk, especially with William Shatner's age. Well, I'm going to throw in another Star Trek quote, and risk is our business. It's why we're aboard her. Yes, William Shatner will be doing what no other Star Trek actor has done before. He will boldly go where no one has gone before, as far as the Star Trek actor is concerned. And this is coming out of The Hollywood Reporter. It's by Ryan Parker. It says, William Shatner headed to space with Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin. I've heard about space for a long time now. I'm taking the opportunity to see it for myself. What a miracle, says the Star Trek icon. And there is something I'm going to ask you guys to tweet out to William Shatner, at William Shatner. Tell him that you would like him to do a captain's log during his flight next Tuesday. Captain's log. Start date 22.9. That's right. Next Tuesday is the 12th. So let's have William Shatner say captain's log October 12th, 2021. I have boarded a strange ship that is not the Enterprise. I can't find Spock or Bones, but I am looking at the blue marble below. The blue marble we all call Earth. Oh my. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a little bit of a dork. And I'm proud to be a dork. It says William Shatner is headed to space. This time is for real. Jeff Bezos' space travel company Blue Origin on Monday announced that the sci-fi TV and film icon would be a crew member on board New Shepard NS-18. It needs to be called Enterprise NCC 1701. And he's not a crew member. He's the captain. He is the captain. The launch will take place October 12th. I've heard about space for a long time now. I'm taking the opportunity to see it for myself. What a miracle, Shatner said in the statement. The 90-year-old Star Trek legend will become the oldest person to travel to space after he takes off from the West Texas launch site. Audrey Powers, Blue Origin's Vice President of Mission and Flight Operations, will join the actor with crewmates Chris Bushisen. I know I just butchered that one. And here's another one I'm probably going to butcher. Glenn DeVeers. Oh boy. Two names I've just butchered. And I do apologize. I'm not doing it on purpose. But let's see. It goes on to say Shatner played Captain James T. Kirk in the original Star Trek television series in 6 films. 6 films? 6 films? 6 films? 7 films! He played Captain Kirk in 7 films. The Motion Picture, The Wrath of Khan, The Search for Spock, A Voyage Home, The Final Frontier, The Undiscovered Country, and Generations. Ay. Although he has said in the past he is done playing Kirk, Shatner did give fans a little bit of fun when he somewhat reprised the role via Twitter last year. The actors shared daily captain's log update, plot device usually done for story exposition on the famed sci-fi TV show and subsequent films, which ran the gamut from his days at home to projects on which he and fellow actors were involved. And after 100 daily entries, he concluded the series with Captain's Log, Stardate 100. I hope you have enjoyed my Captain's Log musings and rantings on the first 100 days of COVID-19 sheltering. It was the least I could do. It was fun. Oh my. Yet they had to choose that from generations, but oh well. Fans of the Star Trek franchise instantly recognized the closing remarks as those Captain Kirk says in 1994's Star Trek Generations, just before the character dies after helping save the day once again. Yep, he and Captain Picard were going after Dr. Tolian Soren because Dr. Tolian Soren wanted to go back into the Nexus, a realm in which you can relive your past and try to change that past, or at least within the boundaries of the Nexus. So, what do you all think about William Shatner heading up to space? You think it's a good idea for the 90-year-old actor? Or do you think he should have stayed here on Terran soil? That's up to you. I'm not going to make the decision for you. But I will say I wish him a safe trip. Certainly don't want anything to happen to the iconic actor. Don't want anything happening to Captain Kirk. And who knows? He may encounter some Klingons. If there's anyone who knows how to deal with Klingons, it's William Shatner. So I wish him, all the best in the flight. Hopefully it's a safe flight. And hopefully nothing happens to him. Fingers crossed, nothing happens to him. I'd hate to lose Captain Kirk. I mean, in one hand, I'm thinking, is this a good idea? But on the other hand, I'm thinking, how cool is it to have Captain Kirk actually going up to space for a few moments? Pretty darn cool, if you ask me. I think it's going to be pretty cool. What I would love to hear what he has to say after he returns, and get his thoughts on having gone into space. And let's see. I'm gonna go with some video game news here. Let me get the article. Whoops, that wasn't it. Let me get the article up here. All right, here we go. And there we go. Waiting for it to load. And okay, why won't it load? Right again. There we go. Got it that time. So, this is coming from Bounding in the Comics, and it's about the Resident Evil 4 VR. And it's talking about how Capcom heavily censors dialogue in Resident Evil 4 VR. Let's see if it tells me. It's written by Spencer Bakuli, and it says, and what is sure to be a cause for dismay among many, if not all, of the game's original fans. It appears that the upcoming VR release of Capcom's classic Resident Evil 4 will feature a heavy censorship of the game's more risque innuendo laden dialogue. According to information provided to Bounding into Comics by an individual who was able to play a recent build of the game and personally reviewed by our staff as well, as reported by the Happy Warrior Substack, numerous bits of dialogue uttered during Leon Kennedy's European adventures have been altered or, in most cases, outright removed, ostensibly out of fear of social media backlash. A list of some of these censorships alterations, as well as transcripts of each given scene's updated script can be seen below. These changes include Leon telling Ingrid Hannigan, his field operations support liaison with the U.S. government, that somehow I thought you'd be a little older during their first radio exchange. So, and then here we have the original. It says, Leon, I hope you can hear me. I'm Ingrid Hannigan. I'll be your support on this mission. Leon says, loud and clear. Somehow I thought you'd be a little older. So the subject's name, Ashley Graham, right? And then Ingrid goes on to say, that's right. And it's updated. Leon, I hope you can hear me. I'm Ingrid Hannigan. I'll be your support on this mission. And then Leon says, loud and clear. So the subject's name is Ashley Graham, right? Really? Really? So that they just changed that little bit. I mean, I know this is just a sample, but come on. Leon's quip of "Don't you mean lonely?" to Hanan after she says she's worried about having not heard from him for 6 hours. And Ingrid in the original says it's been 6 hours since our last transmission. I was starting to get worried. Leon in the original says, don't you mean lonely? Anyway, I started to feel dizzy, and then I guess I must have lost consciousness. Updated. Leon, it's been 6 hours since our last transmission. I was starting to get worried. I started to feel dizzy, and then I guess I must have lost consciousness. Okay, so what's wrong with the original? In the original, she's saying, Leon, it's been 6 hours since our last transmission. I was starting to get worried. Well, yeah, if you're fighting a zombie apocalypse and you haven't heard anything from anyone that's on a support team or anyone that's on your team trying to fend off the zombies, you'd be worried too. Okay, and Louis Sarah in the original said, small world, eh? Well, I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics too. Ashley Graham, how rude. I don't believe there's any relevance with my figure and my standing. Who are you? Louis Sarah. Oh, excuse me, Your Highness. Perhaps the young lady might want to introduce herself first before asking someone his name. And then Louis Sarah, small world, eh? Ashley Graham, who are you? And Louis Sarah, oh, excuse me, Your Highness. Perhaps the young lady might want to introduce herself first before asking someone his name. So again, they're changing things to meet current day. And there's just one thing that people fail to realize. You're going to find, works of art that aren't going to fit current day standards, but they fit the standards of their day. You're going to find books that aren't going to meet current day standards, but they fit the time that they were written in, the time they were printed in. We can't keep adjusting everything to meet modern sensibilities. You have to understand that things were different when these books were written. Do we need to have warnings on everything? No. No, I don't think we need to have warnings on everything describing the material. You just have to understand how things were written years ago reflected the times. Ugh, you know, 1,000 years ago, they did things a lot differently than the way we do things now. We can't go back and correct them. We can't go back and change them. It's already been done. Already been done. So it goes on to talk about different line changes, and it also says additionally, two instances of written text have also been altered. The first is the Secure Ballistics Achievement Award to the player for staving off a horde of villagers following the aforementioned conversation between Louise, Leon, and Ashley, which has been renamed to simple Secure Ashley. Uh, that's all I gotta say about it. Really, that's all I gotta say about it. All right, all right. Now you know what? I need to bring up something funny that I saw. So let me bring it up because I found it funny, and somebody out there is gonna find it funny too. So let me bring it up. 1 second here. Almost got it. Well, actually, there's two things I want to bring it up because I just found them funny. Got one of them here, so let me go ahead and bring that up. Let's see. Let's see if I can get it to share. Want it to share? Yeah. Let's see. No, that's all right. I'm gonna do it a different way, but I want to show you something that'll probably make you laugh. 1 second. Looking for it. That's not it. Here we go. Here we go. This is what I wanted to share. So let me go ahead and share it on screen here. There you go. Nice Star Wars Back to the Future crossover. Luke, you've got to come back with me. Where? Back to the future. Why not the past? If we go to the past, we can prevent your father from going to the dark side. Quick, hop in the land speeder. Duck, you mean to tell me you made a time machine out of a land speeder? Well, I figured if you're gonna build a time machine, you might as well do it in style. Okay, I know that's a bad Alec Guinness, but there you go. Saw this the other day and I couldn't help but laugh. Instead of Doc and Marty, Luke and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Great Scott! Oh, jeez, Marty. We're not in our same universe. Oh my God, Doc. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you all. A little something silly I found. There was another one where it was a Jedi temple being converted into a Spirit of Halloween store, but I couldn't get that one to come up right. So let's see. It's a couple more articles I want to go through real quick. Just let me get to them. Let's see. Let's go ahead and talk about this. I don't know how many people are still interested in Game of Thrones. If there are still people interested in Game of Thrones, well, I'm sure you already know that the trailer for the prequel series of Game of Thrones was released. So here we go. Again, out of Bounding into Comics. It says HBO Max releases first teaser trailer for Game of Thrones spinoff, House of the Dragon. This is by John F. Trent. And it says HBO Max released first teaser trailer for their upcoming Game of Thrones spinoff, House of the Dragon. Take a look. I am not going to play the video because I am going to avoid any copyright claims or copyright strikes. But it says that the series is based on George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood novel series and takes place 200 years before the events of the Game of Thrones and follows individuals from House of Targaryen. It says Martin confirmed that the show back in 2019 and recommended people read the anthology series Dangerous Women and Rogues as well as Fire and Blood if you'd like to know a bit more of what the show will be about. Not only did HBO release this teaser trailer, but they also made 4 new casting announcements. They revealed that Will Johnson will play Sir Vaemond Valarin. I don't know. Vaemond Valarin is the younger brother to Corlys Valerian. There we go. Valerian. Duh. Hold on. Hold on here. All right. So Corlys Valerian and commander in the Valerian Navy. John McMillan plays Sir Lenore Valerian. He is the son of Corus Valerian and ranked. I don't know. I haven't read Game of Thrones. I haven't read any of the books written by George R. Martin, and I had no interest in the series, but I'm sure there are some viewers that are interested in the series. That's why I thought I would go ahead and talk about this. And it says Savannah Stein is Lady Lyanna Valerian. She is the daughter of Corlys Valerian and Rhaenys Targaryen. It says finally Theonate is Sir Lenore Valerian. He has a son. Yeah, it just mentioned that up here, so I don't want to repeat myself. Anyways, it says HBO Max had previously revealed that Emma D'Arcy plays Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen. Her official character description states the king's firstborn child. She is of pure Valerian blood, and she is a dragon rider. Many would say that Rhaenyra, or however you say it, was born with everything, but she was not born a man. They also announced that Matt Smith, and of course, in case anyone is unfamiliar with Matt Smith, well, he played the 11th Doctor in Doctor Who, Geronimo! And if I had to choose who my doctor is, well, it's Matt Smith, since that's who was portraying the Doctor when I started watching Doctor Who. They also, anyways, it said that Matt Smith would play Prince Daemon Targaryen. His official description reads the younger brother of King Rhaenys and heir to the throne, a peerless warrior and a dragon wire. Daemon possesses the true blood of the dragon, but it is said that whenever a Targaryen is born, the gods toss a coin in the air. Steve Towson is Lord Corlys Valerian, also known as the Sea Snake. His description says Lord of the House Valerian, and for I'm gonna stop. Anyways, it's a new Game of Thrones series. Whether you're into it or not, I don't know. I can't speak for you. I can only say that I've never watched the series. If you enjoyed Game of Thrones, great. If you didn't enjoy Game of Thrones near the end, because there are quite a few people who were ticked off about the end, and you can't blame them if you go on this 8-season journey and it ends in a thud from the way everything was described. You can't blame people. So we've got that for any of you Game of Thrones fans. And let's see. I know I have other articles that I pinned that I wanted to discuss. Well, let's go ahead. Stick with Bounty into Comics. And anybody out there interested in the Peacemaker series starring You Can't See Me himself, the guy who doesn't put anyone over. The guy who, when he does put people over, it's only a select few. The guy who Batista doesn't like. And a few other wrestlers. That's right. Everybody, it's John Cena. But yeah, HBO Max releases first teaser trailer for. I just read that. That's not the article I wanted. Hold on. Wasn't the article I wanted, damn it. This is the one I wanted. Blame the operator. All right. Here we go again. That's right. This is from Bounty into Comics. John F. Trent. HBO Max releases profanity film Peacemaker clip featuring his new pet. HBO Max released a new clip of the upcoming The Suicide Squad spin-off series Peacemaker starring John Cena. Take a look. It says, in the clip, Cena's Peacemaker is seen exiting his patriotic-themed vehicle as he goes to meet up with a number of individuals employed Amanda Waller for breakfast. The individuals use excessive profanity to make fun of Peacemaker, his car, and his uniform. As he sits down, he's further grilled about his uniform. He is eventually asked about why he has a bald eagle in his car. Peacemaker responds as eagerly. His associates then proceed to mock his pet eagle. As the clip ends, Peacemaker whispers under his breath, excuse me, I'm jealous of the guy's pet eagle much. Okay, the Peacemaker series was announced back in September 2020 when it was announced that the show's creator, James Gunn, stated it is an opportunity to delve into current world issues through the lens of the superhero, supervillain, and the world's biggest douchebag. It says he added, I am excited to expand the Suicide Squad and bring this character from the DC film universe to the full breadth of the series. And of course, to be able to work again with John, Peter, and my friends at Warner Brothers is icing on the cake. It says Gunn would reiterate those comments while speaking to the Hollywood Reporter in August 2021. When asked what the genre of the show was, Gunn stated, there are a lot of similarities to the Suicide Squad in that it's no holds barred, but there's are also a lot of things that are very different. In fact, it's quieter in some ways. He continued, it's very specifically about a different group of people, so it's a little bit more about society. And one of the leads is Peacemaker, and one of the leads is Daniel Brooks, who plays Leota Abayo. And she is very different, has a very different political view of the world than Peacemaker does. So it's just a little bit about what's going on in the world, but also being a TV show, you really do have more time to delve much deeper into these characters and much more deeply into the drama and comedy of them. Got explained. The director clarified, so it has a lot more similarities, but it's even more grounded, more natural, and more real. But it's still within a big science fiction storyline that lasts for one season. As for what the series is about, in the press release from September, HBO Max explained that the series will explore the origins of the Peacemaker character, the master of weapons from the highly anticipated upcoming The Suicide Squad film, in the new Max original action adventure comedy series Peacemaker. They added the series will explore the origins of the character that Cena will play in the upcoming film, and he's already played it because the film's already been released. It's been out. Many of us have already done reviews on it. A man who believes in peace at any cost, no matter how many people he has to kill to get it. The first season is expected to be 8 episodes long. It is expected to air on HBO Max sometime in January 2022. Yep, 8 episodes is considered a season now. When used to be 24 to 26 episodes were considered a season. But honestly, I don't know that I have any interest in seeing this series. I might have to see a little bit more and then decide whether or not I'm going to watch it, whether or not I'm going to review it. Now, if somebody out there wants me to review it or somebody's, well, then I will consider it. But as far as what I think about the series, well, I'm not a fan of John Cena. I never have been. And for those of you who have seen my videos here on the channel with the return of Kane, Dolph Ziggler cashing in the Money in the Bank, Ryback turning heel on Cena, and of course, Cena coming out the night after WrestleMania 29. Well, you know, I'm just I'm probably going to skip it, to be honest, unless somebody out there, or like I said, somebody's wants me to review it, wants me to go through the torture so they don't have to. So let's see. There are a few more things I wanted to discuss before I wrap it up here in a little bit. Just got to find the article real quick. 1 second. Bear with me. Again, I hope you're all doing well tonight. Thank you all for stopping by, even if it's just been for a little bit. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Nah. Okay. Talked about Law and Order coming back earlier in the show. Well, guess what? We're not done with crime drama series coming back to the television show. A crime drama series that has been off the air for quite some time, actually returning to the airways or returning to streaming, whichever the case may be. And so let's go ahead and read this. And this is from The Hollywood Reporter. It's by Leslie Goldberg. And it's talking about how an LA Law sequel is moving forward at ABC. It says Blair Underwood will reprise his role in the pilot, which sources say will also feature other cast members from the original Emmy-winning NBC drama. It says LA Law is inching closer to a return to prime time. ABC has handed out a pilot order to a sequel to the former NBC legal drama from former star Blair Underwood, set to reprise his role as attorney Jonathan Rollins. Sources say other cast members from the former four-time Emmy-winning NBC drama are also expected to return. From former attorney turned TV writer Mark Guggenheim and his Arrowverse collaborator Yuba Muhammad, Legends of Tomorrow and the new LA Law will see the venerable law firm of Mackenzie Brackman reinvent itself as a litigation firm specializing in only the most high-profile, boundary-pushing, incendiary cases. The ABC take will see Underwood's Rollins having gone from idealistic to more conservative as he clashes with millennial J.J. Freeman to decide the best path forward for the firm to effect political and legal change. The potential series, which was put in development in December, hails from the former Fox-owned 20th Century Television. The now Disney-backed studio produced the original NBC for NBC and owns the rights to the series, which will now be vertically aligned with ABC rather than returning to the network it called home from 1986 to 1994. I know that's a series that Corbin Burnson was on, and I believe Nana Visitor, who played Kira Nerys on DS9, was also on LA Law for a time. I could be mistaken on that, but I believe she was on it. It It says created by Stephen Bacco and Terry Louise Fisher. LA Law won 15 Emmys over 8 seasons and featured a cast that included Harry Hamlin, Susan Day, Corbin Burnson. Okay, I already mentioned him. Jill Eckenberry, Alan Rackins, Michelle Green, Jimmy Smits, Michael Tucker, John Spencer, A. Martinez, Alan Rosenberg, and Debbie Mazar, among others. Bacco's widow, Dana, and son Jesse, executive produced via Steve Bacco Productions. Jesse Bacco played a key role in reviving the legal drama that counted David E. Kelly as an executive producer. Anthony Hemingway, The People versus O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story, Wilhelm, the pilot, and also executive produced alongside Guggenheim and Mohammed Underwood, who joined LA Law in season 2 and remained a regular through its 8th and final season, also executive produced. Says the LA Law revival is the latest pilot order for ABC for the 2022-23 broadcast season and joins the Hilary Swank, Tom McCarthy newspaper drama as network as a result of the pandemic pivots to a more year-round development model. The order arrives days after NBC revived Dick Wolf's mothership Law and Order for a 21st season, though it's unclear if that will air this season or be for 2022-2023, where it could face off in court against LA Law. I wouldn't be surprised if those two series actually go head to head against each other. That would not surprise me at all. And, this is another case where instead of creating something new, they're going back to the well and going back to something that worked in a previous time. And of course, they're going to adapt it for modern times and modern sensibilities. And that's okay. I think you know where I stand on that, just because I can't even come out with what I want to say, but it's going to be a detriment. It's just another case where instead of coming up with something new, they're just going back to the well one too many times and rehashing ideas that have already been done. Yes, I know these ideas that have already been done, they worked during the time, but the way people freak out over the littlest things anymore, how do we know it's going to work? How do we know it's going to work? We don't. We won't know until we see any of these shows actually on our TV screens, whether it be on network or on a streaming service. We won't know if any of these are going to work until then. And I know I'm getting tired of reboot after reboot after reboot after reboot. You can call it revival if you want, but just getting tired of it. And honestly, it gives me a reason not to watch. To be perfectly honest, it gives me a perfectly good reason not to watch. And no, I'm not leaving it just yet. Just getting things prepped. But thanks, Hollywood, for giving me a reason not to watch your show, because it's another reboot, another rehash of what we've already had. We don't need it. Don't need it. Don't want it. Not going to watch. Not going to pay to watch it either. Definitely not going to pay to watch. Not going to pay for another subscription service. Sorry. Sorry, and not sorry. So, Maybe it's just time for Hollywood to hang it up, or at least recruit people who have fresh ideas. Will they do that? No, they won't do it. No, they won't do it. They'll still stick with ideas that they think are working, and they're not working. I mean, take a look at Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard. Or, better yet, last week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. That was disgusting. That was a disgrace to the Star Trek franchise, to Gene Roddenberry's vision. And don't tell me, oh, but they use sexuality in the other series. They didn't use it like that. They didn't have their characters riding each other like a dog. And that's what they had in one clip. And then they had other characters basically dancing around in the nude. And it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting to see what's happened to Gene Roddenberry's vision. That is absolutely disgusting. It's disgraceful. In my opinion, the people in charge should be ashamed of what they allowed Star Trek to become. Star Trek used to be about hope, used to be about optimism, and it's none of that now. It is absolutely none of that now. It's all about people trying to one-up each other, trying to be hateful to one another. It's not hopeful. It's not optimistic in the slightest. And I, for one, am glad I have no interest in watching Lower Decks, no interest in watching Picard, no interest in watching Discovery after what I've seen. None. Absolutely none. And I will not be reviewing any of those series. Even if people were to ask me to review those series, I wouldn't review them. I am disgusted with what I've seen. What I've seen from 4 seasons of Kurtzman run Star Trek. I am disgusted with what I've seen from last week on Lower Decks. It is not funny. That is not funny. That is not what Star Trek's about. Star Trek is about the hope, the optimism, bettering ourselves. It's not about being crass and disgusting and downright ugly. That's not what it's about. And you can debate with me all day long if you'd like, but that's not what Star Trek is about. Star Trek is about a hopeful, optimistic future that gives us something to aspire to. Not something that makes us go, we haven't improved at all. We haven't changed at all. We're still stuck in the 20th and 21st century. This isn't Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, folks. It's not that hopeful, optimistic future that we once got from the original series, that we once had from Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. It's not that future anymore. It's an ugly future. It's a future where characters argue with one another. A future where we take every problem that we currently have and put it on the doorstep. Put it on the forefront. And they think they're telling good stories. They're not telling good stories. They're not telling good stories at all. You know, there are good episodes, and I'm going to bring up one right now about the moral dilemma between the Federation winning the war or the Federation and the alliance, and that alliance of the Klingon and Romulan empires surrendering at some point. But in the pale moonlight, the Federation and Klingons are getting their asses kicked. The Romulans, they're a neutral party. They're sitting back and watching everything happen. Cisco knows he has to do something to get the Romulans into the war. He knows he's got to do something he doesn't like, but it needs to be done because he knows that if it's not done, the Federation and the Klingon Empire will be no more. So what does he do? He figures out a way to get the Romulans into the war thanks to the help of plain, simple Garrick. What ends up happening is they create a fake hologram that has a meeting between Wei Yun and a few other Dominion leaders, Damar being one of them, and talking about the supposed invasion of Romulus. Well, a Romulan ambassador comes on board. Captain Sisko does what he can to wine and dine him, and then that Romulan ambassador discovers that the Cardassian data rod that Sisko gave him with this information is a fake. Then what ends up happening is the ambassador ends up leaving DS9. His ship is destroyed, and the data rod is damaged. But what it leads to is the Romulans entering the war because they take into account that the damage to the data rod is from the explosion. And that's something that even Garrick tells Captain Sisko, that when the Romulans examine the data rod, they will find that it's damaged because of the explosion, and they will enter the war, which is something the Romulans do. Without the Romulans, the Federation and the Klingons do not win the war. There are other episodes of DS9, Paradise Lost, Far Beyond the Stars, just to name a few, that are true Star Trek stories. Nothing like what we're getting from Kurtzman. So I want you all who have never watched the original series, never watched Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, to take some time to watch those shows and see what true Star Trek is about. It's not what we're getting now. It's definitely not what we're getting now. And on that note, I am going to go ahead and leave you. I want to thank you all for coming by and watching this edition of Pop Talk. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. If you like what you saw here, please give this video a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends. Subscribe to the Pacific414 YouTube channel. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, the links are down in the description below. So until the next episode of Pop Talk, this has been Mike. Have yourselves a great night, and I will see you all later.